Ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends on the stage dais, extremely thrilled, and perhaps is one of the most groundbreaking milestones in the Indo-Danish relationship. Why? Because today we are taking another formal step in building up our cultural relations. Today is about textiles, and I put on for the occasion a very famous but also very traditional Indian necktie. And I'm sure you know where it comes from and who is the designer. 400 years ago, almost, on the 19th of October 1620, Danes landed on the shores of today's Tamil Nadu. They did not come to plunder your country. They did not come to exploit what you had at that time. They came to trade. And when they washed ashore with a vessel, then the admiral 𝗂𝗵𝗲𝗍 signed a treaty with the local Nayak. The trade that evolved over the years, believe me, had a lot to do with textiles. I'm a historian by background, but I have done a lot of studies about the trade from Trankebar, as it was called at that time, and Denmark. And at the National Museum in Copenhagen, or National Archives, there are huge old protocols with samples of textile from India. You can go there, and later on you will have the opportunity to see it at the exhibition that's coming up later. These textiles are so important because when we started trading, it was taken to Copenhagen. And Copenhagen was turned into an important trading hub for North Europe. So all the cartoons, as they were called at that time, cotton, they were auctioned. And there was built a very special warehouse. It's called 𝗖𝗵𝗲𝗯 packhouse or warehouse. This became the place for Indian textiles each 400 years and onwards. It's part of the Foreign Service of Denmark, and the address where the Danish Foreign Service is physically located is called Asiatisk Plads, meaning Asiatic Square. So 400 years ago till today, this kind of piece of that particular design has been part of our relationship. So when we looked into how we could take our relationship and build in culture, it became obvious that textile is the key. And therefore I'm extremely pleased that we have this special program about textile masters. And I can see you are so well dressed from Denmark, from India, and from the embassy. So we take pride in really promoting the best of the best. Whenever I'm in Denmark, I'm buying a lot of stuff for my wife, and it's all produced in India. And when I see the prices, I think, my goodness. But then I see the patterns, the colors, and all that. So textile is so important. And I'm really, really pleased that we have our friends from 𝗖𝗏 and others here, and we have these two young, handsome gentlemen and people from Denmark as well. So we can develop our common skills within textile. And we will not be masters, all of us, but there are a few textile masters, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that. But let me conclude by saying that textiles have been part of our 400 years relationship. Now we are taking it from past through present and into the future. So I hope that we soon and in the years ahead will see how Indian handicraft, Indian design, Indian history, Indian techniques, how that can really enrich our bilateral relationship and should also be able jointly to take it to another higher level where we'll say, okay, today's launch of the Textile Master Program was a milestone. So one day, all these fancy, talented, experienced artists, I'm sure they will be so inspired. So whatever came from India hundreds of years ago will now be taken into a joint cooperation where the masters will work and develop new designs, new practices. So when you're coming back in 400 years' time, you will still refer to this event. So with these few words, I'd like to welcome all of you. It's a proud moment for Denmark, it's a proud moment for India, and an even bigger milestone for those who are promoting textiles, because you are the real masters. Dhanyavad, thank you very much indeed.
We are very excited to be here. We are very excited to be part of this cultural exchange between Denmark and India. And for me, as a director of Danish Art Workshop, I'm looking so much forward to be hosting the fine craftsmen from your country in the year to come. And other people that are very excited is the whole environment of textile designers and textile artists in Denmark. It has come to my understanding that they actually consider India to be their next home country. They relate to the craftsmanship in India so naturally. And I'm also thinking that what the whole world have experienced for the last 20 to 30 years is actually that all industries throughout has been digitalized, and there's been a huge change in the way we work about things, also for designers and craftsmen. So one of the strongest debates and discussions that we have within the profession in Denmark, and I guess also in other Western countries these days, is really the alienation from the craftsmanship and what has happened to the knowledge, the tacit knowledge of and the skills of working with your hands. And this is really a very strong discussion we have these days. To me, it's very obvious that there's a hunger for craftsmanship. There's really a need to deep into the craftsmanship again and to explore what you can there and to find inspiration in the craftsmanship. So there's been a huge interest among the Danish textile artists about this program. Unfortunately, we can only send out 5 this time, so that's not, but all the rest of them, they will keep their eyes open and see what comes out of it. And next year, when we have the craftsmen coming to us, they will all be watching what's going on, that's for sure.
Thank you for the opportunity to have been involved in this event and to be able to point out some very strong Danish artisans to come here and have communication and development with your perfect artist in India. I have myself been working with India for many years, and I'm so delighted that we can proceed the workmanship and the craft, which could go down. I mean, which could go back in terms of production if we don't use it more and if we don't spend more time and energy. So this is an effort also to emphasize craft in all over, and especially of course in textile, which is our interest. But crafting all over, I think is very important to support. The exhibition that is going to take place from tomorrow has been named by these two gentlemen. Tradition is temporary, contemporary, and contemporary is really that is what this is all about. Also, that's I think it's a very good title, and so let's go for it.
So it's a real pleasure for 𝗖𝗵𝗲 to be a part of this program, and we were really excited when Martin and 𝗙់ощ came to office with this proposition. And all of us in India and we at 𝗖𝗵𝗲 also have, we take so much pride in the work that our master craftsmen do, that our artisans across India do. And we've grown up seeing the work that they've been doing and hearing about these crafts. But it gives you immense pleasure when this work is also appreciated by other countries and people want to learn these traditions and see how they can be integrated into their design as well. So it was really great to be a part of all this, and I must share with all of you that it was really very difficult to handpick 5 Indian masters and 5 Danish artists, because the work out there is amazing. And we really and we inherently feel that such programs are a cross-learning experience. So while the Danish artists are coming here to learn the Indian traditions and craftsmanship, I'm sure the Indian masters are also going to learn a lot. And there's going to be a lot of creative ideas that's going to be flowing between the two artists when they work together, and I'm really very excited to see what comes out of it. So really this is going to be a very interesting and exciting journey, and we are excited and thankful to be part of this, and we look forward to looking at the outcome. So we also have our two very talented artisans with us today. I think we should known Bandhani since a long time. The word has been derived from the word bandhan, which means time. So it's a very, very intricate technique of tying the fabric in certain places to create beautiful patterns. It's a resist time technique. And I'm really happy to announce the name of the master artisan, Mr. 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗏 who is also with us today. Just a little introduction about him, that he is a 4th generation artisan who has revived his family tradition in Bandhani. He learned Bandhani and then he took a design course at 𝗂𝗽𝗍 𝗍𝗏. And through his work and design, he pushes boundaries in Bandhani, as you can see in the neck, the stole that he's wearing. And he also does shibori, and he has started his label called Nila, which means green, under which he creates naturally dyed eco-friendly products. He received the World Crafts Council Seal of Excellence, and in 2020 he was also juried into the highly competitive international folk art market in Santa Fe. So that's 𝗙𝗵𝗲, and I would request Frederick to announce the name of the Danish artist who's going to work with us.
Mr. 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗏 is going to work with 𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗏, and she is a Danish visual artist who finds the ancient knowledge of craftsmanship very, very interesting and fascinating. But she's also engaged in photography, sculpture, performance and installation. So she's really an open-minded person that wants to see how to combine techniques and media. And tie and dye has been her special interest when she applied.
So these are the two artists who are going to work together, and we also try to showcase their work, their existing work side by side. So that's the work of 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗏 and 𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗏. So then the other craft is hand block printing, and we have 𝗚crcy𝗵𝗵𝗶 with us, who is a 5th generation block printing artisan and designer from 𝗖𝗵𝗲 community of Sangareddy. He is a national award-winning master craftsman. He is a son of a national award-winning master craftsman, and he attended the Indian Institute of Craft and Design in Jaipur and won the gold medal for academic excellence in 2012. He is the creative director of AK Group and works on his brand 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗄, which deals in production and marketing of block printed textiles. He is passionate about block printing industry and his main goal is to sustain the ancient craft while at the same time giving new direction and innovation to the prints and design.
I could say an institution within the textile design and craft environment in Denmark. She's known by everyone. And she's known especially because she's always been very innovative in the way she works, but also tends to find a very simple way of expressing her work. One of the key designs she made was the so-called street print that she exposed at the Milan Design Fair some years ago. And that was based on a lot of items she just found on the street, and we're using them as a sort of block print. But she's dying to come and work with real block print on textile here in India. Well, the criteria is, for one, that they should be professional, and they should be inspiring themselves. And the other thing is actually that their motivation for not just to come to India but to work with this particular craft, that the way they express the motivation, we have looked very much into this. Yeah.
Maybe you could also add for, you can say somewhere when we're shopping in China or London, doesn't matter, we can say some brands. So how, and what you're trying to do is just to reverse and revive our own culture. So how do you think, is there a scope that is...
If I could start answering that question, then I'll ask my two colleagues here. I think we all have experienced that going back to our culture and our kind of offspring, what kind of traditions when it comes to textiles and other craftsmanship, how that was developed as part of a culture. We have to be proud of our culture because that's shaping all of us as individuals. So I see, at least from my point of view, a very strong tendency to go away from standard sizes fitting all of us to something more which is reflecting the culture out of which these things are coming. And it's also a way for all of us to set a very strong symbol to the outside that we are proud of our culture. But more than that, it's also extremely important that we combine the cultures, and Denmark and India and Denmark, I think we have a lot to offer and to inspire us both jointly but also beyond that. So when we started buying fabrics in Tamil Nadu and across India, I will be pretty sure that it might be that these old protocols with samples, 100 years of age, if they are being revived, then suddenly we'll see a new revival of Indian traditions in a modern context. It's not about mass production. We have too much of mass production according to my taste. We need to distinct ourselves and be proud of the culture that we belong to. So, but Jan, you were so involved in so many things.
Yeah, I can only add to this that of course India is so big and have so many traditions in the crafts, and it's so rich on textile and tradition in textile, and we are small and have few traditions, and most of them have died out. And I just don't wish that to happen to India, because that would be a huge loss for us all, for the world, because you really have the treasure. You have the treasure.
Very small, like if you drive through one end to the other, it will take you 5 minutes. And coming from that small town and representing my craft to the international level, Denmark will be a very special moment for me, I guess. And most importantly, it's very important because this exchange between, artist to artist, not just cultural exchange, particularly artist to artist. Usually we see exchange like artists to designers and all that. So that's a special for me. And when we say artist or artisan, it's not just about the technique. It's about how they live, their traditional, their aesthetics, how they think about their craft, how they preserve it. So this will be a great learning for both sides, I guess. And I ensure Embassy of Denmark that they will be proud of at the end of this project.